You know, everybody's got a to-do list. Drop off the dry cleaning, pick up some milk. Here's an idea. Let's save hundreds of dollars on car insurance. And the good thing is you don't have to drop off or pick up anything. All you have to do is go to geico.com, and in 15 minutes you could be saving 15% or more on car insurance. Extra money in your pocket. It just may be the most rewarding to-do you do today.
Now Podcast One brings you Spike's Car Radio. A downloadable cars and coffee, hosted by writer, comedian, and automotive enthusiast, Spike Ferriston. Now, here's Spike.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Spike's Car Radio. We're in the Beverly Hills studio today. We have a great guest coming up in a little bit. We have the style editor, Conde Nast Traveler, Zuckerman, Matt Hranek. Hranek? That's the first question. How do I pronounce your last name, Matt? Matt was on this Elanghe and Sonia trip with me in Italy. I know you're on the way to Italy as well. And he walked up to me and said, I'm the guy who wrote the book, A Man and His Watch. This guy right here. And I said, let me shake your hand, sir. This book that's been all over Instagram that Bill gave, I think he gave us all a copy, right? Or maybe it was just Jerry and I. I think he may have left you out of that one. But I was thrilled to hang out with him. And, you know, every night we'd be at a dinner. He'd like, give the cigar eye to each other. And then we'd get up, we could smoke cigars. Get out of this, like, 3-hour dinner and sit in the back and smoke cigars with the guys and talk watches and talk cars. And he's going to announce plans for something new he's got going on in the show. So, interesting guest. Before that, though, you know, I'm trying to think of the order of how these shows are going to air. I was down at the Porsche Experience Center the day you missed.
I know.
That show was posted. I'm sure fans have been giving you a hard time. I told them to let you have it for missing that day, for packing for your trip.
I actually had business to.
That's like something my wife would say. I can't come to the Porsche event. I got to pack for a trip. What the hell are you bringing that you need to pack for a trip?
I don't really know, but I think I also needed to go to the office and actually do some business. and
it's Saturday.
I understand, but you realize, and you, like everybody else, probably gets a special pair of stupid vacation shorts and your vacation shirt and your flip-flops.
I like to do that these days in the hotel gift shop that I'm going to. I really like to look like a fool.
Right.
So, but I don't like to bring the foolish clothes. I like to buy them and be the fool.
That's a good point.
Right.
I felt that I needed to somehow rush. I don't know what this syndrome is where you feel like you have to do extra things before you go on vacation. So you're extra busy beforehand, and then you're extra busy afterwards. So why even bother going?
Yeah, you do. You're right. There is a mania that you get before you go on vacation that it's completely unnecessary. Because these days, wherever you go, most places, except maybe on an African safari, most places there's a Gap. There's a store where you can get everything you want. Now, I just went to Milan. You can't guess what people are wearing in Milan until you get there and see what they're wearing. That's a blazer, shirt, and jeans on bikes with no helmets type of place for guys.
You know what I love? When I go to Italy, I always love their look. But if you try to replicate their look and bring it home, you look like a clown.
Yeah, no, you're right. You got it, but you can wear it there.
Wear it there.
I bought the greatest shirt. So for the Concours, or what the Villa d'Est Concorso de Villa d'Est, I wanted a crazy Italian shirt, and right there in the hotel gift shop was this blue shirt. You can see it in my famous Enzo Ferristini photograph on Instagram. I'm wearing that shirt. I could not have been more happy.
You were in the Ermini at that time?
I was no, this was not in the Ermini. This is where I'm sitting in the cafe, and there was a picture snapped of me, and you can look at this shirt, because I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it was 80 degrees out, and this shirt was just breathing wonderfully, and it had this pop. I will never wear this shirt again. There's no other place in the world to wear that shirt. But I got a good price on this shirt, and I put it on under a blue blazer, and I was happy for like 10 minutes.
You fit in because in Italy, the men will take to something for the season. They will have a common theme of what they're all wearing.
By the way, I did not feel like I fit in. That was a group of swells with multi-million-dollar cars, and really I was just the hobo-like guest.
You know, I wonder if you'll indulge me. You don't have to. I just love the story about the toy car I think that people listening, our friends that are listening,
Well,
this is such a great, funny story that really summates our passion in small about the cars.
Well, I want to have, Alan de Cadenet, the famous race car driver and British bon vivant, was with us, 75 years old. I want to have him on the podcast. I invited him on the podcast, so he's going to come and we're going to talk about this. But we were all sitting at this grand table, this very long table on the first night, and in front of us were these beautiful blue watch boxes or jewelry boxes with a key that was embossed with your initials on it, SF, EF for my wife, and a very nice presentation. You open the box, and inside were 5 very expensive, my wife noticed the card stock, these 5 cards with beautiful old cars on them, each representing the course of the meal we were having.
Wow.
And a 1:43. 143 die-cast model of someone had really picked some beautiful cars, Ferraris, just the right cars. You're looking at, and I got this, I don't even remember what it was. It was an old Mercedes F1 car. It was the W16419. I don't know.
Something from the 50s.
Something from the 50s, but I was engaged in, 40s, I think.
Oh.
Yeah. I was engaged in conversation, not really paying attention, and Alan is two people away, chatting with me and chatting with my wife, and he's looking at my car, and then about an hour into the meal, he says, he goes, Spike, I really love that car, and and what's great about Alan is he tells this like really beautiful story about the car, the history of the car. He's one of these guys like Leno or Jerry with Porsches who's just got that, really can paint a beautiful picture, right? And I have this whole new appreciation for this car. And he goes, it's so beautiful. I find myself wanting it. And I said, well, that's fine. I don't have a real attachment to this car. Well, we can trade. And he goes, no, I have this other Mercedes W, blah, blah, blah. I'd like to keep both. And I said, well, Alan, that's not how it works. And he goes, well,
two for me, none for you.
Exactly. In his world, it works that way. And he said, well, tell you what, he goes, this weekend, I'm sure there'll be something else that comes up, Porsche, and I'll give you that then. And I said, well, no, we'll trade then when you find that, because I'm now doing all the mental calculations in my head. I'm like, I don't think they have a memorabilia. Yeah, they don't have a memorabilia, room in the Concorso Villa d'Este. And my wife says, just give him the car. Give him the pen, Jerry. Give him the pen. Give him the car. I go, no, I'm not going to do that. No, I really like this car, especially since he wants it. An hour goes by. Matt and I go to smoke cigars. It's our first night. We're smoking cigars. We're with the gang, a couple of writers there, Hodinky writer, and we're having fun. We're chatting. And he comes to say goodnight. He's a little tipsy. Says goodnight. Very nice to meet you. We look forward to spending the weekend with you. And have you thought about the car? And he's not joking. And I go, yeah, I have thought. All right, look, you could have the car. And he goes, what? Then he said, well, I don't want it right now. And I go, yeah, you do. And I said, let me go get the car. He goes, no. He goes, you give me the car tomorrow, and we'll make a deal. And then he completely forgot about it. So I don't know if he was drunk or not drunk or.
Fantastic.
But Alan, that's not how it works. You got to trade right at the table. It would have been great because there were some beautiful cars around that table, and I could tell everybody was, they loved their car, but there were some trades to be made there.
2 for me, none for you, Ferris.
2 for me, none for you. He, by the way, had just crashed on a motorcycle. So, Alan, we have so many friends that know this guy. I've never really hung out with him, met him. He's a delightful guy. His wife is wonderful, and he says, he goes, I'm not myself. He goes, I was riding motorcycles out your way in Los Angeles on the way to Angeles Crest. And I'm like, oh, right. And he goes, yeah, it's on the 134, and then I woke up in a hospital. They
don't say the hospital; they say hospital. Woke up in hospital.
I woke up in hospital. I said, "What do you mean?" I go, "What were you riding one of those like upright mailman BMW things?" He goes, "No, Ducati Pulse Smart." And I was like, I go, "Al, you're 75. You're 70." He goes, "Right." He's one of these old racers. Land Rover Zuckerman just crosses over the yellow line, taps him. He's out. Doesn't even remember it. The guy he was riding with saw the car, didn't get a plate.
Wow.
A couple of broken ribs. Lucky to be alive. now seems to be really, thinking about his own mortality for the first time at 75.
And trying to chisel cars.
This is my last chance to get Spike's die-cast Mercedes, which I took home. And Erica didn't take good care packing it. So when I opened my box, when I got home, the wheels were off the damn thing, and it broke off. And I
should have thrown it at her.
I threw it in the trash. I went, fuck it. No, by the way, on diecast models, I don't know if you've noticed this with some of Porsche's models, because I buy these things for my boys, and then for myself, a lot of little diecast models don't roll these days. Have you noticed that at all? Do you not buy these things? Like
everything is cheapening.
Yeah, like you go and you buy these models, you unscrew them, and then they don't roll. And
what's the point?
What's the point of that? Right.
What's the point?
Anyway, Zuckerman, I just want to get we're gonna bring Matt out here in a minute, but I want to get your perspective on a couple things because we were chatting about this, and Jeff Swart was there, and a fella from Porsche, CEO of Motorsports North America, who's named Daniel. I'm not remembering Armbruster. Okay, there he was. They were, they're Porsche guys, and I was bringing up some of the headlines in Porsche news, and I wasn't quite getting the opinion I wanted to. Okay, let's start with the Mission E. Do you know that they've now named the car?
Yeah.
It's the Taycan.
You've been taken, right? So you've been taken. So I don't understand their naming protocol.
Well, they explain that to me. That is, they have to find a word that they can clear in every territory around the world.
So not like the old classic Nova, which in Spanish means no va, doesn't go.
No. It's very hard to come up with a word that you can clear in every single market.
So why don't they just use some numbers like 911?
So you don't like the new name, right?
I think it's awful.
It took some of the steam out of my excitement for the car, I'll be honest with you.
How can you say I'm going to take the Taken? I'm going to take the Taycan.
How about taking another shot at a name? And I remember we talked about this with the LaFerrari, and now we all kind of accept the LaFerrari.
Okay, how long has it been?
Name. It took a while.
And it was a very desirable car right from the get-go. You didn't care what it was called. It was a stupid name. You were still going to spend $1 million and change to get it.
No, I thought it sounded to me like a Tahitian cocktail of some kind. The LaFerrari, right? It just didn't sound right. But then the car goes on to define, the title, like it does in a TV show.
When I hear Taycan, I think of that cereal bird.
Toucan.
The toucan. What was that cereal bird's name?
But the Porsche Toucan would be a much better name.
Right.
I like that. I would rather that. I don't know how to pronounce this one. Like the Macan.
Yeah, so.
Is a little better, right?
And in that whole family of Porsche and Volkswagen, I had trouble with the Tiguan. I thought that was a silly...
Tiguan's a horrible name.
Yes.
The Touareg is another horrible name. Right.
Right. And so now you have a Taycan, and I think of striped toucan birds for cereal. Was that for Fruity Pops or something?
I don't know. I preferred the Mission E burrito name. I thought that was a much better name for it. Daniel Armbruster told a story last week that you missed about there was a contest at Porsche to name the Boxster, and there was a staffer there who came up with that name.
Great name.
Boxer engine, just added the little stir in there, and what
Speedster, Roadster, Boxster.
Isn't that great?
Yes, it makes
sense.
Who
is that person? We need to find out. We need to celebrate that person. I think it's one of the better names of this century. Don't you think? Taycan. I hope it's not the same guy because that's awful. But the real news, Zuckerman, is the new Porsche Speedster. I'm going to pull some stuff up on it right now. Are you up to speed on it yet?
Speed on the Speedster, yes, sir.
What are your thoughts?
Okay. I want it because it's open-topped and it has the GT3 engine.
Right. So it is, by the way, we were talking about making our predictions, a GT3 engine Speedster, and our information was good on that one.
That's correct. So
I don't think there were any real surprises. I think we were pretty accurate with this.
I wonder about the slant nose. You think we'll be right with that?
We'll move on to that. Yeah, absolutely. I think that we are on track to be exactly right about the slant nose. Porsche at Rennsport the end of September. I brought it up to my friends at Porsche last week, and they gave the eyebrow flare, the tell of we're not going to tell you.
We're not
the
going to
lie.
tell you.
We're lying.
Right.
But getting back to the Speedster, our information was good. I mean, what surprised you about the car?
What surprised me? nothing.
What about the side mirrors? Did you anticipate the Talbot side mirrors?
Okay, that's on the concept. You don't think that'll be on the real car, do
I
you?
do, yeah.
Okay, and I
like it too. I mean, what's the point of doing that and not putting those mirrors on there? That's a pretty big offer to all of us.
I think that, as usual, at this point, the Speedster plays on nostalgia and our emotional attachment to past Speedsters. So I think we both agree that maybe the looks are some of the looks or cues can be a little bit of a hodgepodge, but again, open top, six speed transmission or 7-speed, whatever it is, a manual transmission plus that engine, irresistible combination if you can get it, and that's going to be the problem, I think.
Yes. Central fuel filler cap. They can't keep that, right? They can't keep that.
No
I would love them to keep that. If they kept that, the Talbot-shaped side mirrors, the cross-hatched headlights. Wasn't that just tape that they threw on there?
Tape. They're not going to. I don't think they'll have the mirrors. I don't.
That could be the cheapest option ever. 89 cents, just taped right on top
with boogers. Booger
they could use your boogers. It's got Speedster badging. You know, it kind of reminds me of that. What was that Project 7 car, the Jaguar?
Right,
Remember that? It kind of has that vibe, but maybe that's just the meatball.
Did you ever see a Project 7 car on the road?
Yeah, I did.
You did?
A couple of them. I really like that car. I would encourage our listeners, if they were looking for something, to go out and check the prices on those and go buy one. That's a pretty hot little number to be bombing around on.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, it's got to be depreciating like crazy right now, and who has one? It's a great car. Let's see. What are they saying here? The 6 billion euro electric offensive is expected to create around. Oh, they're talking about electric cars, whatever. So what do we think
it's
now?
Blitzkrieg. Electric Blitzkriegs.
You would have loved Daniel's German accent, Zuckerman. It really would have straightened you up when he first started chatting.
I would have wanted to talk history with him.
Very, very nice guy. One of the things he threw out there was that the racing department is going to have a configurator that you're going to be able to build your own race car online. That's coming soon. How great is that? Think of the hours you're going to waste on that. Yeah. And that you just go down to the Porsche Experience Center and you can order a race car. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, that's just one of those little pieces of information I've never known. Like, how do you get these race cars? Just go down there and order one. Or maybe just click the little website and have it delivered.
And then what do you do with it?
You take it to the track.
I guess, right?
You take it around a corner and crash it like Eli.
Oh, poor Eli. That was humiliating for him.
Oh, that's horrible. We shouldn't even bring it up.
Not at all.
So the GT3 Speedster.
What do you think?
You know, I always get confused this time of year because there's so many of these cars, and I feel like we just got the GT3 Touring, and now they're slapping us in the face with this other one, and the GT2 RS is out there. I start getting a little fatigued and weary. That's, to be honest with you.
I get a little resentful because
right?
I get resentful because I think Porsche has really mastered the end of the product line sales.
Right.
Like nobody else. They keep that excitement going right until the last second. And in fact, probably the 992 will be out when the Speedster's coming out.
Right.
How do they do that to us? How have they figured this out?
They know how to do it. I would change the paint scheme here a little bit. I think the car is beautiful, and I like a lot of the details on it. I'm not sold on the paint yet. I like the way it sits. I like the cowl. I like the seats. I mean, there's a great shot right here, Zuckerman, from the rear, kind of looking forward from the back. Look at that.
Wow. That is really fantastic. If they keep that, then the car works.
Right. And it's got the 70 Porsche logo. I'm not a fan of that sort of badging with the years 1948 to I don't know. I guess it's kind of consistent with what they've done with little stickers over the years on side mirrors. You know, it's pointless to resist.
Listen, if we could get it at sticker, we'd buy it. And we'd be foolish not to.
Really? So it's just about the money?
Well, I think, listen, if I know we're on the list, but there hasn't been any assurance whether we get it at sticker or not, and I have a feeling without assurance, they're gonna come to us and say, "Yeah, you want one? You're gonna have to pay $100,000 over," and I don't think we'll do that.
No. Well, we do have connections.
Our biggest connection has secured himself one.
Who's that?
Mr. Jerry.
So then they've already taken the orders.
They've put his name on one.
Right.
Right, because he gets to talk to people we don't get to talk to.
Right. He's special?
He's special.
All right. Well, good for Jerry. I'm happy he's getting one of these cars. And I don't think they're through. Here's what I'm going to say about it, and then we'll move on. I think we're going to have that slant nose. I also get the feeling there's something else.
In the 911 family?
Yep. There's one more little kooky twist and turn. And now that is just a guess, but I'm guessing it's not just going to be the slant nose edition. That maybe there's something else. Maybe it's just an appearance package thing. Maybe it's not a big deal.
Something more along the lines of the 911 touring for that segment of the market.
Yeah, maybe, or it could be something new for the other side, the 992.
Really?
But I hear rumblings of something, and it's just, it's
God,
just...
they've mastered the art of leaking and anticipation building.
Watch companies are doing this too. They do this with, these one-offs and prototypes more and more now. It seems like everybody's got their little Hoyer Octavia version all of a sudden, and,
Everyone wants to be special. We talked about this.
Right.
Everyone's special.
Where does that go? Does that eventually end?
Well, yeah, at some point we all want to be preppy nerds again. We all want
to fit in.
We all want to fit in. Wear polo shirts and boat shoes. What you said there was a guy who had 100 watches?
Yeah.
That's of one brand?
Yeah. A collector of Alan de Cadenet. Yeah.
100 watches.
He was one of their top customers there, and he said he had 100 of them, yeah.
Do you think his wife hates him?
No, she was there. She's fine with it. He's obviously made a lot of money in life, and she's cool. She's totally fine. But that's a lot of watches. That's a lot of those watches.
Could you imagine you misplaced one? You'd never know.
He told me that occasionally there are a lot of them he's never worn. He's taken delivery of them and just tucked them away, and then he comes back to them a month or two and finds them and wears them. Which, let's just be honest. You and I have done that with cars. We've done that with things. For me, 100 watches doesn't seem... I could get there pretty easily if I wanted to, and I'm, probably halfway there. But I really try to cull, and, I want to be able to wear my stuff. And if my rule is if I haven't worn it in a year, I get rid of it. Clothes, shoes, watches, otherwise. It just... Otherwise, I'm just saving it for the death garage sale, the death sale, the estate sale.
That's what I think about with that 100 watches. They end up in a pawn shop on Wilshire Boulevard somewhere.
No, that'll go to an auction somewhere for sure. When you spend time with these German watchmakers, by the way, these are German watchmakers.
Not Swiss.
Every couple hours, you're sitting with a different person from the company, and from PR to the guys who design the watches. You go off the deep end. You lose it.
That much money in watches that
these
do
watches
this
were beautiful,
press.
Zuckerman. These watches were absolutely stunning and perfect for the location we were in. And now I'm very fond of the brand. I will be buying one of their watches soon. And furthermore, my delightful young wife, who doesn't get caught up in that crap, the Prius driving wife, said, I really would love to have one of these watches one day.
To remind her of the experience, too.
Yeah. No, but she liked the company ethos. She liked the fact that these guys were not going to let the old man like me stay in my hotel room all day long and eat Danish. That they had these hats that said "keep moving" or something. Keep, elonge and son. We keep going. Whatever it was.
Perpetual motion.
It was and she loved them for. You get up at 9. We're doing this tour. We're getting on Riva boats. Then we're getting in vintage cars, and we're doing this. The whole time we were just running and gunning and dinners and socializing. And the CEOs, straight on down. Everybody on staff was super friendly. We'll talk about it tonight, and he'll be able to tell me. Because I think Matt does these things more than I do, whether this one is typical or this one was really as great as I thought it was. Because I don't know that I've ever had an experience like this before in my life. I don't know that I ever will again. It was that perfect.
I have one, and I've said this before, I have a problem with watches in that one of the reasons I don't get into them is that I never can see the watch on my own wrist. I can only see watches on somebody else.
We talk about that.
Is that a common syndrome, or is that just something peculiar to me?
It's a common syndrome. It's hard to enjoy your watch as much as someone else enjoys it because they're getting the whole presentation. But that's one way of thinking about it. On vacation, I can enjoy a watch more than like today. I'm wearing my 6263 Rolex because Matt has a Daytona on the cover of his book, A Man and His Watch, but I'm not enjoying it.
I'm enjoying seeing you with it.
You're liking it. He's going to like it. They're mostly on the weekend for me when I go, all right, we're gonna drive out and have coffee with Zuckerman. So I'm gonna get in the old Speedster. What do I want to wear with that? And there are moments at stoplights where I kind of look at the crap and go, oh, this is fun. That's it. That's why I like to do that stuff. Or, later in the afternoon, I'm going to jump in the pool with the kids. What do I want to get wet in? And I throw on a watch like that and have fun. But it's stupid, pointless, superficial.
Spiritually bankrupt.
Spiritually bankrupt. It totally is.
Hashtag spiritually bankrupt.
Take it or leave it. You're exactly right. Yeah. I could be just as happy in a Timex with a NATO. There was a new Timex. I don't know what it was, but somebody's designing these really cool Timex watches on NATO straps. I saw one on Instagram the other day, and it was, it's $60, probably $100 watch. It's like I could be just as happy in that. I just love the way the watch looked. And I was going to buy it, but I'm like, I'll never wear it because I'm not wearing half the stuff I have.
Have you noticed these tactical watches, like tack gear? People are into tactical gear.
Yeah.
Have you seen this?
No.
What is that about?
I don't know. I think it's like my boys. They like weapons and military stuff, right?
Okay, but if you're 30 years old, it's a little weird if you've got your tack pants, your tack belt, your tack glasses, your tack watch, and you're going to go to the deli and get something.
Don't activate the militia against us right now, Zuckerman, because now you're talking straight to the militia guys, and they don't like to be made fun of. And as I'm told by them, they have people everywhere. So
really?
You got to be careful.
Should I wear Oakleys? Blue blockers?
I'd be careful, Zuckerman. What are your plans for Italy, by the way? Are you really going to do what you told me to do, which is get up every morning very early and sit and eat breakfast for 3 hours?
Yes, because if anybody's been to one of these Italian hotels, they put out the breakfast buffet, and there is really endless variety of wonderful treats. And I do, since the kids and everybody takes too long for them to come downstairs, I get up earlier and I go down and I leisurely eat for hours and have coffee and have the best part of my day by myself.
What do you read?
I get the International Herald Tribune.
Okay. What is your method? Do you start? Because for me, it's hard not to start with the croissants and the easy to get stuff. I started with like the runny eggs and a little bit of oatmeal, and then I moved into the bigger stuff.
Okay, this is old man talk, but I will tell you that I start with the eggs, and then I go also. I progressively get to worse and worse.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
That, of
right?
course, you get a good base, you get a solid base, and then you go wild.
And then at what point do you go to the bathroom? Do you go to the bathroom before you go down, or do you eat the big breakfast and then hit the bathroom?
I would say, why stop at one? Go before and after.
Come on in, Matt. Matt's walking in right now.
As we're talking about pooping.
As we're talking about pooping. Hey, Matt. Good to see you, my friend. Come on in. Sit down. It's right over there.
Matt?
This is
Nice
Paul
to see you,
Zuckerman.
Paul.
Paul's about as far away from a gentleman as you'll find. Matt is a true gentleman.
Wow.
A true gentleman.
And I brought gifts.
Come on.
Let's talk right into the microphone.
I bought
there
gifts.
so we
I'm
know.
drinking coffee. This mic's a little high for
Just
me.
point it down. There you go.
Um,
You did because you have impeccable manners.
well, thank
I
you.
was trying to communicate to Zuckerman. He's the style editor for Conde Nast Traveler.
Really?
Did you know that?
Well, it's sort of an accidental thing.
Okay, we already know that all of the best jobs come accidentally.
Yes, that's
Right.
right.
I would like more of those accidental jobs that incorporate lifestyles in Lake Como at the
Right.
luxury hotels and car shows. But
I was telling Zuckerman, I was like, you've been on these probably a lot more than I have. Was that one of the best ones you've ever been on?
I think that was one of the best ones for two reasons. The venue, just going to see those cars, like I've been wanting to go see that for a long
So
time.
you've never been to the Concourse?
Never been to the Concourse. But to have that kind of insider VIP track to that is pretty special.
Yeah.
The Tre Mezzo, which is this old school Italian hotel on the lake, I think is one of the best hotels I've ever stayed at.
It's beautiful.
It's magic. And I love old school Italian hotels. I think in heaven there's the bartender is an Italian guy in a white jacket making the perfect Negroni. And that place just is evocative of all those things that I love about Italy. And it's like that fantasy on the lake. And when I got home, I said to my wife, we need to go back there immediately.
That's right.
And I think we're actually.
She definitely does, because how you can't communicate to people, really. We can talk to them right now, but they cannot experience what we experience until you get there and you go, oh, now I understand.
Well, there's this like sense of service and elegance that happens there where, like, listen, I'm in LA. I love the Sunset Tower Hotel. Like, that's where I set up shop. I like old school sensibility hotels. Present owners, thoughtful staff. And like in Italy, like you have a hotel job for life.
Yes.
The food and
It's a
beverage
profession.
manager. Right? It's not just the like, I'm an actor, this is a
Right.
fleeting job, this is a gateway to something else. This is your life. And I think they approach it with such passion that it's infectious and the service is incredible.
That's the
You're so right.
the Riva boat captain that I met.
God.
That is that guy. I'm looking at his craft going, this thing is perfection. This guy's outfit is perfection. He's just a boat. I mean, everything about that boat had been thought about and tweaked to perfection.
Viva
a
Italia.
perfect preservation Riva boat without a single knob that was chipped.
How come it only works on that soil?
I don't know.
I know that your point is well taken, that here everybody's on their way to something else. It's not what they aspire to, but still there's something about the soil, the air, the atmosphere.
They've been at it a long time. I mean, we're a country of like young mutts from
Right.
different reference points. Like the Italians have been doing that one way for a long time. I mean, there's a lot of messed up stuff there, right?
Right.
Politically, infrastructure, nothing gets done, the economy is for crap. But, you see like four guys having a coffee in the afternoon, not caring about all that.
With
and
their jackets on their shoulders,
Yeah,
right?
I also thought
impeccably
it
dressed.
wasn't overdeveloped. I didn't see many tourists there, aside from the
Season.
little hotels.
Yeah. And I think that's a big surprise about Como, because I think a lot of people, particularly as Americans, like have this idea, and it's like, Clooney's got a house there and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But there is an actual community there. There is like great little towns, and it feels still untouched in many ways. It doesn't feel
does.
commercial, and I think that's another nuance of Italy. I think they're able to like keep that localized and keep it kind of charming and unadulterated. And but those damn Rivas. One time I said to myself, we should look into getting a Riva.
I did that.
There's
the second I got home.
700,000
I
bucks.
know,
aren't there?
I know. There are a few for sale down in Newport. I already looked at them.
Well, as somebody who
But
owned
they were over $1 million.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not even like, it's just a little pleasurable runabout. It's not like it's a
What
yacht.
are they, the Aquanauts? Is that what we were being run around
the
in?
Aquanaut.
Yeah.
I owned, in a horse trade, I got a 1941 mahogany Chris Craft
Really?
runabout.
Another beautiful.
17-footer. Like, that was my mini Riva.
Uh-huh.
But I will say, having that boat, let's say on the South Shore of Long Island where I rented this house, was such a nightmare. Like, that thing is for, like, puttering around some little calm lake somewhere. Because suddenly there's every Goomba with a sea ray.
Right.
Just like waking you. It's like Tony
Goomba, can you say that?
Well, I'm from Long Island. Yes, that's a nice way.
As an Italian
Yeah.
growing up in
Yes.
upstate New York, I will say that.
You can say that. It's very friendly.
But it's like every Tony Soprano kind of wannabe
Right.
with a mat, and we just so the most fun we would have would be going to the dock with a drink and just sitting on the boat, and then I think I had that boat one summer, and I was like, we got to sell this damn boat. But they are. It is a
boat.
beautiful object. Wooden boats are beautiful objects to have.
I wonder how those Rivas do out in the ocean.
They don't.
Do
Well,
they not
have
do well?
Them, they have
Why
them like
not?
in the south of France and stuff.
They
But-
do?
And I ran
Do they
mine
do okay in the salt water?
Yeah,
Or
but
is
that's
it
just like 100 times more like care and
a
maintenance.
lot more
I would
work,
imagine.
right? But
It's
they're
listen,
so gorgeous.
Spike, it's always better to have somebody else in your life own that boat.
Right.
I mean, that's the way I look at it.
We could share one, Zuckerman.
I know you guys are on a vehicle share, I hear. So.
Yes. So, but where would we
We got
putter
no place
around?
to use it. Someday when I move to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, to hang out on Lakeside, I'm going to get one
Or
of those wooden
Tahoe.
boats. Tahoe? I've never been to Tahoe. Have you ever been to Tahoe? There's no
Why?
reason to go to Tahoe. Why?
Well,
I know, it's
maybe
hard.
to put that boat.
I don't like cold. I don't like mountains.
I would be afraid of what would happen to me if I went there by myself and was there for longer than a couple of days. You know what I mean?
What would you do with yourself?
I don't
devil's
want to
work.
say. There's been
The
too
devil's
much of it.
work would be. It would be.
There's too much of it in the news these days.
Oh my God.
I don't want to say, but with little kids, it would be fun. But lakes by yourself, older. I guess I
I'm
would fish.
predictable. I like the Mediterranean. Just throw me on the Mediterranean somewhere.
I could retire at Lake Como for sure.
I like lakes.
Yeah,
I do
I
like
do too.
lakes.
I love them.
Italian lakes are other. You notice there was like no party boats with keggers and
None.
solo cups. It was all
Nobody
very
even
elegant.
fishing.
Right.
There was no one fishing
No.
there.
Actually, the first time I went to Como, and I like swimming in lakes, so I immediately said to the hotel, like, I'm going to go swim in the lake. And they're like, no. It's very dangerous to swim in the lake. And I was like, well, I don't understand. Why is it? Very deep, undertows. Like, they were so paranoid. And I was like, I swam in some pretty deep lakes. Like, at your own risk. You know, it was like
It's
that kind of
very
thing.
deep.
It's very deep.
What
like,
the hell does
You
that
could
mean?
drown in 10 feet of water. What
Loch
is the-
Ness monster.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
And did you swim?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And it was
They
fine.
thought I was crazy.
It was
yeah.
cold, right?
It was cold. It was beautiful, but it was like, August. It was great. I don't know. I don't know why the culture of that water culture is just different. It's not like you don't see any water skiing. You don't.
Yeah, you don't.
You don't see
That's
any
right.
of that.
There was none of that.
It's just
stuff.
like people getting
no jet
tan.
skis. There was none of that. You're right. There was none of that stuff.
Yeah.
None of that.
And it's always like you have Lago de Garda, which is there, which
Even
is so
bigger.
cool.
Yeah.
Then Como, and then there's a couple smaller other ones, like where
There's 5 or something. 5 of the
Cristo
lakes.
did that installation in this. I guess last year I went to go see that. Anyway,
And then cars, and then they dump a bunch of beautiful cars into this thing, and you're just looking around. There's everywhere you look is beauty. Is beautiful cars with beautiful backgrounds
and then good food.
and fantastic food.
Yeah.
And then Matt and I, cigars.
And I brought you. I brought my travel kit.
I love this little cigar suitcase.
Okay.
This is what is that? It's
This
a
is
Rimowa?
This is the
That's
hottest
nice.
tip ever. A friend of mine who used to write for Cigar Aficionado, I don't know if he still does. He said, "Oh, if you ever fly business class in Lufthansa, they give away a Rimowa travel, like the amenity kit." And he said it's the best travel cigar box.
You're exactly right.
So you throw.
Oh my gosh! Look
Right,
at
you
this.
throw a little.
Let me
humidor
You
see
should
in it.
put. You have to take a picture and put it on Instagram.
Look
this
at
is.
that.
I don't
Right.
even
Oh,
like.
boy.
I don't like cigars, but that's
Wow.
wonderful. You could see Tony Montana with
that.
Coke in there.
You're the best.
But so take your pick out of there. I know there's
Well,
some
you
Hoyos.
know what I'm going to pick, right?
Yeah, there's actually a kind of beat up Partagas in there that I'll smoke, but he's right. And these little
Take this little guy right there. Wow.
and then these little humidity
Stumpy
packs
little
that they
Hoyo.
sell
Thank
now.
you.
Pleasure. Will keep everything up to temperature and
That's a good tip. I have one of those, and I almost threw it out yesterday.
It would be
I was
fa-
saying,
it
I
would
don't
be
know what to do with
fantastic
this,
if
but
you
you're
could pull
exactly
it.
right. It's a perfect little
perfect.
cigar thing.
and you want to know the embarrassing thing? I gave this to my daughter. Right when I came back from the trip, I was like, Clara, you're gonna love this. It's a cute little." And she's like, "Oh, great, I'll put stuff in it." And then about a month later, I was like, "Remember that brown Rimowa case that I gave you? Daddy needs that back for his smokes." It was like that kind of thing. It was not very
hilarious.
popular.
That's very funny.
All right, guys, we have to take a break. I know you just sat down, Mac. We'll be right back with more Spike's Car Radio.
Great.
Think of all the weird things found in cars. I'm not talking about your garden variety petrified French fries or melted crayons. I'm talking about live snakes, bizarre trinkets, the kind of stuff that just makes you wonder about, folks. Another thing that will make you wonder, but in a good way, are Continental belts. Bet you didn't know they're OE in tens of millions of Chrysler, Dodge, Ford, and GM vehicles that roll off the assembly line. They're also OE on the majority of BMWs and VWs. Now, Continental is launching the aftermarket multi-V belt with the OE pedigree. It's their OE technology series belts that are fanatically engineered for perfect fit, form, and function, and Continental has been an OE technology series multi-V belt for 98% of the vehicles on the road in the US and Canada. Hey, you get enough surprises working on cars and trucks. A belt shouldn't be one of them. Go with Continental OE technology series multi-V belts, the belt with the OE pedigree. To get the full story, visit oetechnologyseries.com.
You're listening to Spike's Car Radio.
Welcome back. There's no real
Wow, that
break,
was
Matt.
so awesome. That
They
was
just
so
cut
flat.
in the commercials just like that.
Wow, that was quick.
I was so pleased to meet you when we were in Italy. You came right up and introduced yourself like a real person,
Yes.
unlike us. You just walked up and said hello, and I wrote this book, A Man and His Watch. If you don't know it, iconic watches and stories from the men who wore them. You look on Instagram again, this book seems to be popping all over the place again.
Yeah.
I guess you're doing a lot of press right now?
Well, it came out in November, and
Right.
it immediately sold out. I guess it resonated with people, and now it's on its third printing, so we just kind of did another big push to say, hey, this book is out there.
Wow.
And
Did you expect it to pop like that?
listen, I'm a total accidental author. Like my buddy Steve Lewis, who photographed this book beautifully, he said to me, "Well, man, that's great. Like you've actually written more books than you've read, and he's not too far off. But no, I didn't think I knew it was going to resonate with people that loved watches because I kind of traveled in that circle of people. But I think what happens is it resonated with people who just like good stories, and I think that was the driving point of the book was let's not just fill this with like beautiful watches and objects that we all kind of fetishize over, but let's find those kind of emotional stories that could resonate with anybody. And it just took off. And I also think Artisan did a beautiful job designing the book, and that was another thing is like even if you don't like watches or watch stories, I wanted this object to be something that people gravitated to. And now we're on the third printing. So
I have a theory.
Tell me.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
This was right around the time that the Newman watch was being auctioned off, right? And on the cover of your book, you have another Newman Daytona on
That
there.
was an incredible stroke of luck.
Yeah, and that's where I saw it, and then I saw this watch, and that's what really grabbed me about the book.
And that's funny because the book started selfishly with my own watch story, a dad story, right? Father left me a watch. And then as I started thinking about watches, I had met Clea Newman, and I saw that watch on her wrist. And I knew it was her father's. And I was like, God, I need that.
And this is the watch right here on the cover here.
That's
so that's
the watch.
a 6263 with a black dial.
That's right, called the Big Red Daytona.
Big Red Dato.
That is and it's engraved on the back, Drive Slowly, Joanne.
Which is the very back cover of the book right here.
What a beautiful photograph.
And I still get chills when I...
And that's the same engraving as the watch that sold for $17 million, right?
Well, it's actually... wait, no, that one says Drive Carefully
Drive Carefully.
Me. It says Drive Carefully Me.
Okay,
so at that point, I had no idea, and the family really wasn't disclosing this, where that exotic, quote-unquote, Paul Newman dial was.
Right.
And no one was talking about it, and I just assumed it disappeared or no one wanted to talk about it or no one had it. So... But I was just really, really pleased to get my hands on this one. And now we learned that this is the one that Joanne Woodward gave Paul Newman to replace the one he gave away, which was to Nell's boyfriend, which is the one that had the hammer price at Phillips for $17.5 million. And that one surfaced just surprisingly, coincidentally, at the same time. And then, there was all these collectors and controversy of, like, people were contacting me, like, this watch is, what do you know about this? And I said, listen, guys, I don't know anything about these watches. I just know that this one was on Clea's wrist, and when I touched it, it still had the man's DNA in the damn thing.
Right,
It was a powerful thing.
Wow.
And
so she still wears this watch?
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, she was wearing it the day I saw her.
And that's the daughter. That's Paul Newman's daughter. And
That's right.
her husband is the one who had the other watch, right?
No, so there's Nell and Clea.
Okay.
Nell's boyfriend was given the watch that had the exotic
It was
dial.
a charming story.
Right?
Yeah.
He was working in a treehouse. Paul said, what time is it? I don't wear a watch. I'm paraphrasing, right? And he takes off and he's like, this one keeps good time. And that was the exotic dial, quote, Paul Newman.
Here's $17 million.
Here's $17 million in the future. And then Joanne Woodward gave him that watch.
Right.
And then when Paul died, Clea started wearing the watch. And she said she wore it horseback riding and in the garden and
Used it. Right.
Used it. It was a tool. And that's what she said. Her father was not looking at the value of these things. They were tools.
Of course not. They're little cigarette watches.
I know.
Right. Cigarette bucks. Discounts. Now, how many more of these are there floating around? Where there only two?
Well, there's pictures of him with a Bulova Accutron.
Oh, yeah?
There was, I guess there was a Submariner. I mean, who knows? But in terms of Daytonas, I think there was just a couple. Mm-hmm. But who knows? I mean, they're really kind of tight-lipped about it, and no one really wants to talk about it. And when this other watch came up, I sent Clea an email, and we're just like, hey, what's going on with this? And I think she was just laying low during that.
Right.
She heads up Serious Fun, which is the camps, the terminally ill kids camps. Mm-hmm. And I just think she was like, I can't get caught up in this madness.
Right. No, it's kind of like the McQueen auction. Remember when those McQueen sunglasses sold for $100,000, and his wife said, God, if I know they're worth that much, I'd give you the rest of them.
Oh, yeah.
It's a whole big bucket of them back here. You know what I like about the book, and I was flipping through it again last night, prepare for this interview, was there's no faces of guys who own the watches in there.
Yeah.
There's no picture of the big rich guy who's got the watch.
Yeah, that was
it's just the watch.
That
It's
was a
just
very conscious decision.
right. We don't want to see that guy.
No, and that's why but I do think glossaries are fun, and I
Uh-huh.
think glossaries are interesting, like particularly if people don't know people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why in the back of the book you have a glossary that
Of names and
of names of people, but they're all illustrated as well. Like
right.
we kind of just have
Oh yeah, there they are.
right. We just kind of have caricatures of everybody.
Oh, that's way better. Yeah, everybody looks better in a little pencil drawing.
yeah,
Oh, Nate
including
Berkus,
myself.
look at that.
There
he
you
is.
go.
Berkus had a great story in that book, a very heartfelt. And then
Mario Andretti, George Bamford, Nate Berkus. So you know all these. Oh, Paul Boutros, our friend
Boutros, yep.
Boutros
Ralph
Ghali.
Lauren.
Oh, Ben Clymer, of course. Wow, look at all these guys.
Well, these were all the kind of fraternity of guys that were the ones that inspired the book to begin with, with pretty intimate stories. And, Clymer's watch is in there, and it's an Omega that his grandfather gave him. And it really,
that's
again,
great.
that one is kept in the safe along with his other epic collection.
Look, there's Adam Moore. Did you think about how long you would draw his beard?
Well, guess what?
Or
Everyone
give
with
him
a
shave?
beard, everyone with a beard was really well illustrated in that book for some reason. I think I had them do mine like 3 times because I just look like a monkey. But.
So I know you're doing an event. What is it, tomorrow night here at our friend Ken Jacobs' place?
Yeah.
Want to buy a watch?
Wanna Buy a Watch.
How did that come about?
Well, I had obviously had mutual friends. I was a big fan of Want to Buy a Watch when I first was kind of poking around and buying watches when I would come out to L.A. And I met Ken in person through my friends at Analog Shift in New York, who are huge Ken fans, and I saw that via Instagram, and I just walked in the shop one day, and I said, hey, I'm Matt, and, blah, blah, blah. And we kind of hit it off, and we've been trying to figure out how to do something in Los Angeles for the last couple months. And I said, listen, I'll be here for the week. Let's make it happen. So he said, terrific. We're going to do it tomorrow night. I'm going to sign books. I'll chat about stories and hang out with really beautiful watches
Oh, that's
that
nice.
I could barely afford anymore.
Well, you will now that you're selling lots of books. What are some of your favorite stories from the book?
Well, I think I love the Stallone story because I knew he was a big watch guy.
Right.
And I knew there was this relationship with Panerai. Like Rambo is wearing a Panerai.
Right.
Like all that stuff was really important to him in terms of the details of stuff, right? And so I reached out to him through a mutual friend, and forever he wasn't getting back to me. And I just kept they said, no, but Sly wants to do this. And I was like, he's not getting back to me. So, and it turned out like, I don't know, he didn't know how to operate the email correctly.
Right.
It's like, So finally he said, I'm going to send out a watch, and a FedEx arrives. And I was like, God, this is really weird. He's just going to send it out. And I open up, and there's this 1680 gold Submariner in there.
Wow.
I really thought it was going to be a Panerai, right? And there's a very sweet note in there, and I email him, thank you, send it. Could you just give me the story? So basically, he's like, it's the most precious, most beautiful thing I own, quote. And he just dropped it into FedEx, and it kind of made me really anxious, to be honest, to have that watch.
Yeah, that's a really expensive watch.
And then he tells how he bought that watch after being on a flight with Greg Allman.
Really?
Yeah. I guess they were on a commercial flight with Greg Allman. Rocky had just blown up. The Oscars won, and he looks down and he sees this watch on Allman's wrist, and it's like, it's the most beautiful thing I ever saw. And he runs to Tiffany and buys the same exact watch. And he still talks about how that is the single most representative thing of that time, right? Which is so amazing. And he also talks about a line in Rocky 2 where it says, if you want to have a good time, you got to have a good watch. And that's when he's with Paulie buying a Rolex.
Right.
And that was just so impressive that this intimate thing, this thing that he's calling the most important object in his life, right? He's dropped and sent to us with incomplete trust. And I also think that's the kind of fraternity of watches happens that way too.
Does it have? I'm trying to find the watch in the book. Does it have a Tiffany dial on it?
It has a Tiffany printed dial on it.
It does. So that makes
I
it
don't remember exactly what page it is. And then on the other side of that, you have local Hollywood celebrity Dimitri, who's the keeper of the gate at the Sunset Tower, and Sunset Tower Bar and the Sunset Tower is such a cool, sexy place. Like, for me, it embodies Hollywood, right?
Right.
It's like some old school movie producer, young starlets, dark bar, blah, blah, blah. So he was wearing some Swiss watch of note that he couldn't read because it was so dark in there. And Bill Murray comes in and is like, Dimitri, what time is it? And he's like, I don't know. He can't see his watch. So Bill Murray takes off his Indiglo Timex and hands it to him. Takes off his Swiss watch, puts it in his pocket. And he's like, now you could tell what time it is because it's got an Indiglo switch, right?
Yeah.
So Dimitri says, every once in a while Bill Murray will call down when he's staying in the hotel and ring the bar. Dimitri will pick up and he'll say, hey, Dimitri, what time is it?
Great
Because
story.
he does not take that watch off now. And I think he lost the Swiss watch to Murray, but that's
Wow.
unconfirmed. But
This guy here, Mario Andretti's watch, this Hoyer right here.
that is the... And you see, there's
Now,
like
didn't
burn
they just
marks.
didn't they just make one of these, a brand new one, a Ronnie Peterson or something?
Yeah.
To give it to one Swedish guy. What
so,
am I
so
thinking
these
about here?
So these gold Hoyers, like Hoyer was, Jack Hoyer was giving these gold Hoyers to significant drivers, mostly in this case when Andretti drove for Ferrari. And the cool thing about Andretti is that he always wore every single watch that was ever given to him, loaned to him, made for him. And this one, while he was racing with Ferrari, he drove with it at every race, and you could see it's all burned on the inside from the heat of the engine.
Right. Oh yeah, look
And
at that.
there's-
There are the burn marks right by the pushers.
And there's amazing pictures of him wearing that watch racing.
That's
and also,
unbelievable.
So
Yeah.
Andretti was so cool because I knew he had this watch, and this was a very significant watch, but I didn't realize how into watches he was until he lives in Nazareth, PA, right? And he's been there since they came to Italy as kids. They left an internment camp, moved to Pennsylvania. And I spoke to the secretary, and she was like, "Wait, you don't want to talk to Mario about car racing? You want to talk to him about watches?" And then Mario picks up the phone, and he's like, "If you want to talk about watches, get out here. You can come out here tomorrow." Really? So we packed up. Grabbed my photographer. We packed up. I have an assistant at Conde Nast she's just in love with car racing and has the hugest crush on Mario. I called my buddies at Frankie Spuntino. I was like, I want to bring the best olive oil and everything to just to ingratiate him with gifts. So we pull up. He was so amazing. He had a table, big table, about the one we're sitting on, just piles of watches, including the watch that his uncle gave he and his brother when they were in the internment camp in Italy. He still had it.
And why are they in an internment camp?
Because during World War II,
They were rounding up race car drivers?
they were rounding up Italians as part of the Axis.
This escaped me in history class. I've never heard of such a thing. Do you remember
Italy was first part of allies with Nazi Germany. Then they switched sides, so there were a lot of people that were either displaced or were caught between allegiances at various times.
Yep, perfectly said. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
then they got out and they moved to Pennsylvania, and he told this great story because they heard a dirt track in the background, and he and his brother run to this dirt track, and they look up where there's all these kind of modified old 30s Fords and stuff like that, and they look at it and at each other and they say now we could do that, because racing in Italy was just for the elite and for the wealthy. And then that's where they started building cars and racing cars in Pennsylvania, and that's where things just took off. Obviously.
So you sit down with Mario. I've met Mario. He seems like a hard guy to impress. Was he impressed by any gift that you brought him?
He liked the olive oil. I have to say he did like the olive oil, and I think he was really impressed that my young assistant Mara was so enamored with him. And she's cute, and he loved that.
Oh, there you go.
And she just came with piles of posters for him to sign. I think he likes superfans, right?
Right.
But the funniest thing was there was a pile of Daytonas.
Just a pile?
In
Just
the middle. Yeah. And
were
I
they
was
on the tabletop, or did he put a napkin under them?
I have
or?
a picture. I'll show you. It was just a mess of watches, dumped out of a box. I swear to God. And I picked up one of the Daytonas, and I said, Mario, what are you doing with all these Daytonas? And he's like, well, I did win that race a couple times. And I just felt like such a butthole. I was just like, oh, duh,
Well, it says here that he was traveling with watches. He liked to bring 4 or 5 watches with him wherever he went. And that in Italy, Zuckerman, watch out.
Well, turn the page.
A couple were stolen.
Yeah,
Really?
the Porsche watch, which is this black Porsche
look
design.
at
That one, I guess he was in Brazil and he fell asleep on the beach and somebody took it off his wrist. Yeah. And he after qualifying, he just fell asleep on the beach. And then Porsche heard about that and then gave him another one. And you can see that one. That one is beat to hell.
That's beautiful. No,
and then that's the
perfectly
watch.
Patented. Creamy loon Zuckerman.
I love creamy.
Even a little coffee stain on there. Lovely.
And then that's the watch that was his brother, the one given in the internment camp. This the third one in that series.
It's Clay Regazzoni, though. This is the one I want Tag Heuer to remake right now. I know that they did. No, you know what they made? They made white gold watches like this for the Swedish market for some reason. Maybe 25 of them. But it's this watch needs to be remade for everybody.
In the correct case size. Like I don't like when they kind of blow everything up.
Right.
Everything gets too big and too chunky. Like just make it the way it was. That's what people love about it.
I think Tag Heuer's getting there. I think they've had a lot of feedback, I think, from all of us. You have to look at what Rolex did with that Daytona and go, they did that new Daytona perfectly.
Yeah, I love
There's no reason we can't have 40 millimeters that sits right and not like a hockey puck. And
that's right.
Now we've bought your Octavias, these new Octavias.
Yeah.
I have a couple of them, but I would like something that fits a little more like the original watch.
I totally agree.
And this Carrera, the same deal.
An 18 karat?
I'd love to see that. I don't need it in gold, but I would wear this as a gold watch, sure.
Yeah. I love the bracelet, too.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And a great story, Clay Regazzoni, right? Do you remember from the racing movie, his part of the story?
I don't.
With
what
Hunt,
is that?
and he was one of the racers on Ferrari with Hunt, and then the other gentleman who got burned. What was his name again?
I don't know.
We're forgetting.
I know the movie, though, Ron
race.
Howard.
Right, exactly. But then at a certain point, Clay was in an accident, and he became paralyzed from the waist down. And then he continued to race, even though he was paralyzed from the waist down. And then, only the way Italians can end their lives, he was driving on the autostrada and somehow crashed into a bridge pylon and died.
After all that.
After all of that, yes.
Well, there's a great picture, and I tried to get this, and I'm going to totally mess up this guy's name, but he was the Italian racer that pulled Niki Lauda out of the car.
There's our gentleman's name.
Yeah, it was Lauda, right?
Lauda, yeah. But I think his name, is it Manzoni, or it was an Italian guy.
Right.
And they used to call him the cowboy because he always wore a cowboy hat.
Right.
He was the one that rushed to Lauda's car and pulled him out. And there's a great picture of Nicky handing him his gold Rolex.
Really?
Still recovering from burns and stuff. And Mario got him on the phone because he only speaks Italian. And I only know how to order food in Italian. And he still has the watch. And I couldn't get to Milan in time to make the deadline for the book. But I
guess there's more stories for book number 2.
I know. It's soon as, it was like peeling an onion,
Right.
And then soon as this thing really took off and there was probably 70, 80 stories, my publisher was like, no more stories. So hence the second book that I'm working on now is A Man in His Car.
Oh, there you go. So we're off watches and we're into cars.
I think I wanted to start straight away with another relatable, passionate subject where you have emotional connective tissue to this machine, right? And again, it starts with a selfish story, my story. And I didn't want to take the power away from this book with another watch book. So, hey.
Taproot cars. But where do we go after A Man in His Car?
A man and his taproot.
A man in his hoe.
A man and his root. The root man.
Yeah.
Give us some more AC in here, Will. We're getting hot. Can you lower it a little bit? We're suffering. It's getting stifling in here. There you go. I think Will gets cold. You look at him in an Afghan and a shawl in there. So, no more watches. I like this. This is a whole brand for you. We can keep going. A man and his pen.
Man and his belt.
Man and his dog.
A man and his belt. That would be great.
You have a lot of passionate belt stories in your life.
Only when I don't have it with me, right?
Wouldn't you say that your belt is the thing that lasts with you the longest in your closet?
Absolutely.
That you have belts from 20 years ago?
I believe so. I'm not a belt buyer.
When do you go buy belts?
I need a belt.
I need a belt?
Yeah, not many belt collections out there,
right.
I imagine.
Yeah.
Right.
No, but I just mean you don't ever turn it over. You don't.
No, unless you get really fat.
Yeah, you could do that.
Fat is probably more.
I find with the suits, if you're going to wear a lot of suits, the black belt starts to get worn. But now with your suit, you don't need to wear the belt anymore.
You tab it, you're fine. You get a Sansa stretch pant.
How did you handle this tuxedo requirement?
By the way,
in Italy,
this is going to sound completely obnoxious
because we went to a black tie dinner, and I found as I was packing like Zuckerman, like I had a real pack to do. Zuckerman, I had to bring like 4 different suits to this thing because every night there was
You
a
look
different.
He dressed as well.
But how did you handle your tuxedo?
I love the opportunity to wear a tuxedo.
Right.
I'll be honest with you. Maybe it's this kind of
You look
romantic
great.
Bond, or you think you look like Cary Grant. You look in the mirror, you're like,
It
I
is
do not
very
look like
nice. Men of our age dressing up in that scenery. It was perfect.
I do think the cool thing about black tie is like no matter when you've had it made, or if you had it made, or you own one, regardless of what genre, except maybe you did that weird 90s no collar and a stud thing. But if you kept true to the tuxedo idea, they always look good. And when all those guys are together in black and tuxedo, everyone looks great.
They do.
know? And I think I had one that I bought at a thrift store in like West Palm Beach one time. I had it tailored. And then a buddy of mine is a tailor in New York named Jake Muser said, listen, for your birthday, I was going to have this party, and he's like, I'm going to make you a tux. And it was a summer tux, right? It was complete frivolous folly. But I love that. And when
There
you
are
get
2 different seasons of tuxedos.
Yeah, there could be 3 or 4 actually, to be honest with you.
Cruise.
Yeah.
For cruise season.
Cruise, winter, cashmere
What
tuxedo.
were those shoes you were wearing? You were wearing some sort of
Some
loafer
Belgian
thing
loafer,
with,
yeah.
The Belgian loafer
Yeah.
with no socks.
Yeah, I'm not a sock guy.
That was I hate
Man and
socks.
his loafers.
Man in his socks.
Man and his Belgian loafer.
No, I'm not
Here's what was making me laugh about it. Like, when we go there, it's all of what we've been calling the swells and this beautiful scenery and this big gala, which, by the way, nobody's even looking at tickets or anything. Like,
No.
you could just wander right into
If
this
you were
thing.
dressed right,
Yeah,
you
you're
walk
dressed
in.
right, and nobody's going to look at you sideways. But I'm getting, I used to have a tuxedo, but I just thought, how long will this tuxedo stay in fashion? I used to have it for the Emmys.
Yeah.
Going to the Emmys every year, and then I was like, I'm not going to keep carrying this thing around. So I rent my tuxedos now. But I thought it was funny. Thank
do you
for
still
hitting my
have that
punchline.
tuxedo?
I go to Friar Tux. I'm in Friar Tux, and I'm making Friar tuxedo jokes, and then I go there, but I carried some of Friar Tux into that event, and it made me a little insecure that I was in my Friar tuxedo.
That's very
Well,
funny.
it didn't look like there was a Friar tuxedo on your back.
No,
but,
I
but what
chose
about
very
the Emmy?
carefully. What's
What
that?
what happened to the Emmy tux?
That was a Calvin Klein tuxedo, yeah. I just thought, I don't know, I'm not a man of style like you. To me, these things, after a couple of years, aren't they out of fashion?
I
Don't you
think,
just
like I
get rid
said,
of them?
unless you made some, like, quote
Woeful
unquote,
mistake.
woeful progressive style mistakes. Like if you stay old school,
Right.
like if
Classic.
if you look at anything that Sean Connery wore or anything, there could have been some Roger Moore mistakes,
Right.
But like I think, I go to Basel every year, and
And just for the listeners who don't know what that is,
Basel
it
is
sounds like a
big,
doctor's appointment.
it's a
I get
I
my
get a
Basel.
Basel removed every year. It's a big watch convention
where
for lack
they
of a
roll
better
out the new stuff, and where is it? Switzerland?
word. That's
or
in
Geneva?
Switzerland, in Geneva.
Yeah.
And anyway, that is no, Basel's in Basel. SIHH, which is another one, is in Geneva.
Okay.
There's two. So anyway, there was a lot of black tie stuff, and I saw a really elegant older guy at the concierge, all like decked out, ready to go, but he could not tie his tie, right? And he probably had this tux made in like the 1950s, But the concierge tied the tie, put his jacket on, and I was like, that guy looks good. Like, he looks so good. Like, I don't know if he looks good by the pool, but
Right.
in that tuxedo, he just looked amazing,
looked
and it was
right.
timeless.
Yeah.
And I think it was because it was just a straightforward, classic time. And honestly, I think everyone should, I don't know.
I'm amazed at the concierge. That's like, I wonder if that was part of the
that's
test
old.
to get the job.
That's old school, like Clay
Really?
Door stuff. And he just looked at him. It's hard to tie something facing somebody. And he just, boom, did it. And I was
Really?
like, that's the coolest thing I've seen in a long time. Yeah.
Wow.
That's the part of the story I like.
Yeah,
wow.
me too.
I have one bow tie that I've never worn that I've always wanted to wear.
That you
So
tie
I should
yourself.
Save it for a hotel. No, I don't know how to tie a bow tie. I don't know what
Oh,
I'm
you
talking
practice
about.
on your leg. That's the tip.
I'm not going to practice.
I'll
You're not
practice
I
on
can't
my
do-
third leg with your tie.
You want to take it on your vacation?
Oh yes, and I'm going to take pictures everywhere. I'll do nutscapes for you with
I'll
your
give it
bow
to you.
tie.
I got to make sure you have my
Nutscapes.
email for that.
Did you just say nutscapes on
Bow
the
tie
show?
nutscapes, yes.
Oh, good Lord.
Please do not Google nutscapes.
Yes,
because it's
please
out there.
do.
Yes, don't.
Do.
Don't
Do.
Google that or lemon party. Please, we don't want you to do that. What about collar insecurity? With suits, I get collar insecurity. Like
you adjust?
No, the collar style seems to be changing constantly, and I never know where the hell I'm going with a collar.
Can we go back to Italy for a second?
Yes.
Because if you follow, just like looking at next time you're in an Italian taxi cab,
Right.
Like somewhere, like look at the taxi driver, like it's just dialed in, right?
Right.
They have like just classic, straightforward style that I think is timeless. And I think as I get older, like there's an event going on in Florence right now called PT, where it's all like the men in European fashion. It's another like fashion convention, right? But the coolest guys there are all these old school Italian guys who are like in suits that they had made probably in the 50s and 60s. And they just have this air of confidence. And I think when you have confidence, you could kind of pull off anything.
That's why the Italians have that word, sprezzatura.
Sprezzatura.
Right, which is just that casual elegance.
That's right.
Right, and they just can pull it off. And no matter what I do, how much money I spend, I'm never going to have sprezzatura. It's not. It's not going to happen.
Don't
for
you
me.
have fleeting moments of it? I
Some-
find I have
oh,
fleeting moments of
I
it.
have it in my memory. You're
Yeah.
right. Like somehow in some long ago time, everything was right, and now it's just.
No, mine are 5-minute spurts, maybe once a year. I go, and then it's gone.
But also, you live in a town that embraces the casualness of everything, right? Like
Yeah.
it's more encouraged to be
Right.
not in a jacket and a shirt collar.
Zuckerman's always in a jacket. So he's on his way to Sicily right now. He's
Really?
leaving
Where?
tomorrow morning.
Well, I think we're going to get into Palermo.
Excellent.
And then there will be going around the coast. So obviously, Taormina, there's always a stop.
So you're in motion. You're not
you
staying
have
in one
to
place.
be there. I was there 25 years ago. I went in March when nobody was there. I had a rental car, and I just drove around the island. So there's little old towns like Cefalù or Scaccia or Porto, whatever. And it still is. I love it because it's not as crowded.
Yeah. Are you going to Noto? Noto is an amazing place. So it's just south of Taormina, right? And there's an amazing hotel there called the Tomeo, which I'm jaded, but I ain't that jaded. When I got to that hotel one summer night, Etna was like booming in the background, and you sit there on a terrace drinking a spritz and watching Etna erupt.
How far south is it?
Wow.
It's just north of Catania.
Okay, so not very.
Not
I mean,
very. It's just magical there. And then Noto is this completely, I guess the original city was lost to some earthquake, and then in the 19th century they rebuilt the entire town. It's just magical. I mean,
N-O-T-T-O?
N-O-T-O.
N-O-T-O.
Go there.
Noto.
Go there.
And
Wow.
erupting volcanoes.
Yeah.
And
Maybe I'll be
spritzers.
swallowed. If I get swallowed up, I'll be happy.
You'll be
Is
preserved.
there anybody
You'll
who's after you there in Italy, Zuckerman? Is there a chance that you'll be taken out?
Remember, it was Toto Rina. Toto Rina was the last great mafioso in Sicily, but that was the 90s. So
Didn't they find him by tracking his laundry or something?
yes, they did, because he had blown up a couple of federal judges. Judges are investigative in Italy. He'd blown up Giovanni Falco, and I think there was somebody else, and that was even too much for the Italians.
You know, you should squeeze in a couple episodes of FX's Trust
Yes.
with our friend Hilary Swank, and it's that kidnapping, the Getty kidnapping
Yes,
in
yes, of
Italy,
course.
and the cars in this series are unbelievable. It's a little limited series. The Alfa Romeos, the whole they doing it for the car guys because they know they're sitting next to the wife that wants to watch this show,
Ah.
and there are these beautiful shots of them zipping around in their Giulias, the bad guys. And Jaguars, and they're so beautifully shot, you will lose your mind. It'll really set the tone for what you're about to do.
Any other suggestion other than Noto?
I love Catania. Catania as a city is just breathtakingly beautiful.
Right.
It's fantastic.
How are their breakfasts?
They like a sweet breakfast. They love
We-
a sweet.
yes.
The Sicilians love it's just like cakes for breakfast. My
so
daughter had a
we
blast.
talked. I said the best part of an Italian vacation is the very long breakfast buffet. Get down there before the rest of the family and leisurely eat your way through the tables.
I totally agree. And the Tremezzo had a spectacular one. And it's
Oh,
always
it was unreal. It was unreal.
I
It was
never-
in a ballroom. It was in a fucking ballroom. You'd walk in the morning, and it's just laid out, and you're like, my God. I
never ate
didn't
so
really
much.
avail myself of that enough.
Oh, you poor fool.
I was always up late and running and go, get me a coffee, and he'd make me one. And
I
I'd be
feel
up.
for you.
I actually lost weight in Italy.
What?
I lost weight because I wasn't eating.
You did not do your vacation.
I did
right.
not do it right. You're right.
Yeah, I told you.
I know. I tried. I failed. Anyway.
My favorite Sicilian car is the Fiat Panda 4x4.
Yes, of
in
course.
mint green, like the color
Yes,
of.
of course.
Like when I see those cars, my heart races.
And of course, you could never drive this. It's like buying your clothes in Italy. It doesn't quite work here.
No, doesn't
right?
translate.
It's got to be on the soil. It's the same thing. Like
Oh,
try
yeah,
if
that's
you,
hideous.
Yeah, if you drove a Panda, it's your agricultural
Spike is looking it up right
vehicle.
now. Yeah,
You put
it's the great democratizer.
Right.
Am I saying that correctly?
Yes, you bring your tomatoes and olive oil to market
Yeah.
in that vehicle going all of 40
What did you,
kilometers per hour.
Zuckerman,
Yeah.
what did you rent? Are you just going to get what they get up?
No.
get whatever they
I
have,
have an Alpha.
You do?
Yes.
You got a little
really?
Alpha?
Yes.
Nice.
Because we had horrible rental cars and.
Okay, now they may screw us because I stated my preference, but you get there and they may say, oh, well, no, the Alpha's not available. You get whatever.
It's a Skoda.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Fiat.
Yeah, exactly. I thought about my rental car when I got here to LA. I used to be so uptight about what my rental car was. Like it had to be of a certain make, certain status, certain
right.
things. I don't really care.
No,
I just
it
want
I
to get
don't
the fuck
care
out of the
exactly.
airport.
I'm like, give me the Corolla.
Yeah, I'm
Let's
going.
go.
Let's get out of here.
What service do you use to rent a car in Italy?
Whatever's the fare. What do they
So
have?
you're just going to you have
Euro
Avis.
car.
Avis.
You have no reservation whatsoever.
No, I have a reservation. I don't have it in front of me. I know I asked for the Alpha, Giulietta,
fun.
the Giulia, whatever they have now, the 4-door, and hopefully with a stick. Hopefully I will get that.
Yeah.
Instead of something else, which will likely be the case. I'll get something else, and I won't complain because I want to get the fuck out of there.
Well, I'm going to give you a hot tip. Only in Italy, at the rental car agencies, particularly in Sicily, do they make you take a number like at a deli.
Come on.
Yeah, and if you don't do that,
You're
standing there waiting, and all of a sudden they're like, numero due, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, I've been here for an hour, and somebody who grabbed number 2 walked, and they're completely unsympathetic. So when you see the deli number counter, grab a ticket.
That's a great tip.
There you
Because
go.
I don't, as it is, I'm going to be tired and cranky.
No.
And I don't want to have a fit.
Gonna be.
When
That's
are
how
you
you
not?
start every day.
Yes.
Tireder, crankier. Anyway,
And how
we're-
long are you there for?
A week. I'll have a week on the
He's
ground.
got
there.
time. Bring us back a present, will you? Gentlemen, we're out of time. It's been a delightful
That was fun.
conversation. It's been
Yeah.
nice having you here,
Terrific.
Matt. Where do we buy your book? Everybody should have this book. This is one of the few books that was gifted to me that I actually put in my office. I
Wow,
get a lot
that's-
of books. They're right now. It's right next to my book on 917s, Luftgekalt book that Patrick Long gave me, and then that nice picture book that Jerry gave us about our
Right.
day of racing. So
Right.
so it's right there.
What an honor.
I like looking at it because of that cover, and I like flipping through it when I have a moment when I'm screwing off.
Thank you. And go to your local bookstore, Amazon, Barnes & Noble.
So it's
Usual
on
Suspects.
Amazon's Usual Suspects.
Yeah.
What about Book Soup?
I don't know if Book Soup bought any of those books, but I know my publisher really pursues this small,
I would at Book Soup once a week they have an author speaking, and that would be a great gig for you.
Yeah, that's a
totally
perfect
available
place.
if you're out there.
If anyone's listening, that I would like to. That I would actually want to see and hear.
Yeah, that would be a good event for them.
Yeah,
because then you
love
can
that.
combine the book and the watch thing. Diesel Books is another one in Brentwood where you could do a nice event because there's a lot of car and watch guys.
I'd
out
like
there
to stay
too.
in LA the whole week and just talk about this book with people. It sounds like fun.
Well, you got to get the book.
Well, I think the man in his car, man, that's going to be a good one.
So, hey, guys, I need stories. I want emotional stories. I know we could fill this book full with just expensive cars, and I know you guys know that's not the point.
Right.
Well, for example, usually it's not expensive cars because you take, say, Jerry, for example, if we're going to share, didn't he buy a car, an Alfa or a Fiat when he was 15 or 14
Yeah, when he
before
was a
he could
kid.
even
Does he still have
drive?
it?
Right.
He doesn't have it, but he's trying to replace
Yeah.
it. But there's those kind of great stories.
Totally.
There's always, as we say, the taproot car. And
Yeah.
the taproot car is not something fancy.
No.
It's something that we're aspirational.
I just was on the phone with Ken Gross, and he told me about this 1932 Ford he had with as a kid, and how he was just defying this bully named like Dickie Klein, who said you would never own good cars. His whole life, he's been defying that guy. Dickie Klein, and
Dickie Klein is
he's
long
out there
in the
somewhere.
grave. No, he's on 6 feet under, never amounted to anything.
But I think
Dickie
those
Klein.
are those are the stories we want, like that kind of stuff.
Well, I think it's going to be a huge success. People want to get in touch with you. Where do you like to respond? Instagram, Facebook, Twitter?
On Instagram, I'm at WM Brown Project. There's also A Man and His Watch Instagram that's putting up kind of great stories
cool.
and stuff.
We'll follow that.
But yeah, DM me. I answer everything, and I'm happy to communicate with people who love this stuff. So.
Zuckerman, have a nice vacation, my friend.
Thank you very much.
I hope you don't die in a horrible car accident. Eat until you're stuffed.
That, no doubt. That will
You've
occur.
earned it. You're burning the candle at both ends. I've never seen you need a vacation more than this. So
Really?
I hope you have a very nice
Wow.
time. Yeah, you need a break. You can catch up with me on Instagram. I'm faking it on Twitter, and I feel guilty, so I post on Facebook. But really, I enjoy Instagram, so catch up with me there at Spike First, and we'll see you next week on Spike's Car Radio. Real quick before we go, here's some useful car tips you might not be aware of. A coffee filter and a little bit of olive oil can clean your interior. Removing excess weight from your car will improve gas mileage, and you can place your key fob to your chin to increase its range. That's pretty weird, right? Well, here's another tip you also might not know about. TrueCar also helps people get used cars. That's right. TrueCar isn't just for buying new cars. With their certified dealer network and nationwide inventory of nearly 1 million used cars, you'll enjoy real pricing on actual inventory and a simpler buying experience, whether you buy new or used. And with TrueCar, users can see what others paid so they know if they're getting a good deal before they're buying. They're also more likely to enjoy a faster buying experience by connecting with TrueCar certified dealers. When you're ready to buy a new or used car, check out TrueCar and enjoy a more confident car buying experience. Some features not available in all states.
Thanks for listening to Spike's Car Radio. Download new episodes every Wednesday on the Podcast One app or subscribe now at Apple Podcasts or PodcastOne.com.
Everybody likes free things, right? So help my podcast stay free to download with minimal ads by taking a very quick survey over on Podcast One. Responses will help align the appropriate advertisers to my audience. Maybe there's things I share with all of you that you're not into. Maybe there's things, well, why would I share things that they're not into? Don't talk about that. I'm going to share what I want, but maybe there's things you think I should be talking about. The survey is short and completely anonymous and takes no more than 5 minutes. There are 2 easy ways to begin the survey. Go to www.podcastone.com/my survey or go to podcastone.com and click on the survey banner. If you filled a survey out in the past for other shows, we totally appreciate it, but we still need you to do it again. You're doing me a huge favor, me, Spike, a favor, and Podcast One a huge favor by filling it out. So what are you waiting for? Get the survey, fill it out now, and vote Zuckerman off the island.
If you own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles and have an auto warranty about to expire or no warranty coverage at all, listen up. CarShield has a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that covers more parts than ever. Visit carshield.com/audio to find out how you could pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Get your free quote today at carshield.com/audio. That's carshield.com/audio.
Hey guys, time to get in on the action for the biggest moments in basketball with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections, place your entry, and win up to 100 times your money. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit of up to $100. Just download the Prize Picks app and use the code GET100. That's code GET100 on Prize Picks for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy.